Welcome to the Dark Zone, an adventure racing podcast.
Very important for me to try to bring, because they are the stars, the true stars, and I really want them to have all the attention they can get.
Well, for me, the action is the juice. I'm in.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
The sun is setting as the sky turns pink. The mountains are calling, and all I can think of is you, my friend, my partner in crime. What you doing today? What you doing tonight? I will run with you till the river runs dry.
As listeners of the Dark Zone know, we are strong supporters of Ascend Athletics and their goal of empowering women and girls through leadership mountaineering in Afghanistan and Pakistan. This summer, they're expanding their reach to support 150 women in Afghanistan, and they're exploring an ambitious expedition to K2 Base Camp in Pakistan, led by renowned mountaineers Naila Kiani and Vibeke Sefland. Ascend Athletics is truly redefining opportunity for women around the world. Be sure to check out ascendathletics.org to learn more about their mission. Once again, ascendathletics.org, and you can find that link in the show notes. Keep in mind, as I always point out, they pay nothing for this promo. Instead, we love the work that they do, and we're happy to spread it to the world. Welcome to the Dark Zone Adventure Racing Podcast. This is your host, Brian Gatens, episode number 98. That's right, folks, closing in on 100. Today we have what I like to call an adventure race adjacent guest. Thomas Ogander is the director of the One Water Race. It's an event that's held in Sweden in the Archipelago, 30,000 islands. It's a fascinating race that he's dreamed up. It's the ultimate test of human endurance, as he describes it. As you listen to the episode, you'll see what he's trying to put together, what he's trying to produce for the world. Fascinating stuff. Not AR, but hey, there's swimming, there's running, there's maps, there's support crews. There's a lot of our world in his world, and it was great to have Thomas on the show. In the show notes are all the links to the things that he mentions, and so please check that out. And thank you for being a listener to the Dark Zone. We love that you're here. If you like what you're hearing over here on the podcast, I ask that you please head to your streaming platform of choice and like and click and subscribe. The algorithm likes it when that happens. They like it when people out there are saying yes to the show, and then we go up in the ratings and the rankings, and we get more listeners, and we spread the message of what AR can be to the world. So thank you for being here. Thanks for being a listener. Sit back and relax and enjoy this episode of The Dark Zone. And remember, if you keep racing, we'll keep talking. Welcome to The Dark Zone, an adventure racing podcast. This is your host, Brian Gatens. Stepping a bit out of the adventure racing world today, but an adventure racing adjacent sport, we have Thomas Ogander. He's the race director, the founder of the One Water Race, which is a swim run race that takes place in Sweden. Thomas has been profiled on other podcasts. There's a lot of media out there about One Water. And I knew that the Dark Zone audience, Thomas, would love to hear from you, love to hear your story. Anything with endurance, anything map and compass, you're talking to us. These are your people. Tell us a bit, Thomas, about One Water Race.
Well, it sounds like a total crazy idea, but I've always been into endurance and tried to reach the impossible. And actually, my background is from triathlon and long distance races. And then for about 12, 14 years ago, I started with swim run with the ÖTÖ World Championships. And swim run is that's an A to B race. It's about 10 Ks of swimming and 65 Ks of running, and then you go in between the islands. In the Stockholm Archipelago, you have like 30,000 islands, so it's a perfect stretch. And then when I had done ÖTÖ World Championships like 5 times, I came third. at the podium 2 times, and then I started to look at the whole archipelago of Stockholm. That's about 30,000 island. The stretch is about 250 k's. So I started there, and like 4 years ago, me and my training mates, we did the distance within 3 days. And when we did that, we went for about 80, 90 Ks a day, like 12, 15 hours a day. We slept during the nights, or a few hours anyway. And then I realized this is something I need to do, a race in the Stockholm archipelago, in the complete archipelago. And then I also started to look, what is this possible to do in without sleep, in just one go? And then I started to look, what can I do? What kind of race can I create in trying to see what is humanly possible, so to speak. So then I decided it's an A to B. It's a start in the north part at Arholma, and then you have the finish at Landsort. It's about 250, 260 Ks, about 200 Ks of running, and 50, 60 Ks of swimming. Altogether, I think you will pass like about 150 islands, which means that you have 250 transitions. And then I also wanted to I've been orienteering myself, and I really like that part when it comes to adventure racing. So I would like to add that as well. So it's not a course. It's just from A to B, but the course is divided into 5 sections, and when you enter each section, you get a new map. So you know the route, but you don't know exactly, because we have some unknown checkpoints to pass along the way. So you get a new map when you enter each section. So which means that you really need to be, it's a strategic race as well. And you can train with the map. We have digital maps over the Stockholm archipelago. We have made our own maps because maps are so important. So we have made really high class orienteer maps. So you can practice, you can look at the map before the race, but you don't know where the races are going to be. So it's going to be like a new race every year, so to speak. And then it's a team race. You are 4 racers in each team. You are 3 that will be on the course along the way, the whole way. You 3 people stick together the whole race, and both sexes must be part of the race, both men and women. And then you have a 4th member, which is your support, because each team they have their own safety boat and own skipper that bring the 4th team member along the course during the race. And then also it's non-stop. It's I placed it in the end of August because in the nights it's completely black. It's pitch black during the night. In the summertime, in July, it's fantastic, because then you have almost sun 24 hours a day. But then I thought, it's fantastic, but I want to make it harder. Yeah,
because not for nothing, Thomas, it's not hard already.
No.
You want to make it harder.
That's also, we people, we want it to be hard. Mm-hmm. And that's also the main thing about this race. What is possible from a race perspective? So we want to stretch that all the time, not in a strange way or in a not human way, but what is possible to do. So that's the main thing. Yeah,
I think the point that you're making there is you want this to be challenging but not cruel.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You want to, I mean, so let's like connect the adventure racing dots here for a second. Right. Let's see where there's crossover. It's a team-based sport. It's co-ed. There are 4 members. Unique that you have 3 people on the course, and the 4th member. And I like the fact that you called the support person a member of the team. Right?
Absolutely.
They weren't just support, but they're a member of the team, right? So you have 4 people. They have a dedicated boat that goes with them. And then that support person plays a significant role. There's map and compass navigation.
Yeah.
Right. There's significant physical challenge. Right. And just to be clear, when the racers start, and they start in the north, and if you look at the archipelago with the 30,000 islands, they leave. What equipment are there equipment expectations for what they can carry? I know they could use hand paddles. Do they have to carry everything? Can they give things to their support person? Like, how does that work out?
Yeah, that's it. It's about like in adventure racing as well. They have boxes that they get from us as an organization, so they can keep things in the boat, especially when it comes to foot suits, for example. It's quite cold. Like last year, we had between 12 and 14 degrees in the water at the nighttime, which means that maybe you need a full suit for the swims, for example. So you can change that. So you can actually change suits, shoes, or whatever. But I would say that the pace is quite high. So the races doesn't actually stop that much. The winners, they don't sleep. They just go for it. And then, as you said, the support is really, it's an important member of the team.
And support can help with navigation.
Yeah, exactly. Because the support crew, when the team are out running, he can look at the map and see, because when they get the new map, they need to put their own strategy and see, okay, we're taking these checkpoints. Which way do we think is the fastest way for us to go? Should we run more, or do we think that, okay, we can do this 4K swim? We think that is faster than taking these islands around. So that's. And also when it comes to the wind and the weather and everything, the weather conditions, the 4th member can plan that. Where you have the 3 other members, they usually have one who is the navigator in the team on the course, but he's just going for it. So when they look at the map, the support crew, he has planned the route in advance, and then he just go, okay, we're going there. So they have a very tight connection. So the 4th member, which is the support member, are really, really important. And the teams are also self-sufficient. So the 4th member are also planning the energy, the gels, the drinks, and whatever. And then the 4th member is also, when it comes to the nighttime, when it comes to the swimmings, the support crew is keeping the navigation during night with the spotlight. So yes, exactly. So he have a really strong spotlight that goes like almost 1K, but so he needs to be all prepared during the night. So he needs to be there at all times. And we have seen, like last year, support members who, they don't sleep either. They have to be out there. And the support member is also the member that could, cheer up the team when they meet and so on. So he has really, really important. Yeah.
They can make hot food for them. They can have items ready.
Yeah.
And then as the racers leapfrog, right? Because they go from island to island, checkpoint to checkpoint, while they're doing the physical labor, right? And let's not separate the fact the support person has a very heavy physical component also, because they have to stay awake and they have to get everything ready and move the gear and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, they need to be like the glue that kind of holds the team together. And then so that's, I mean, this is a pretty. I love the fact that I always break adventure racing down in the fact you bring these different systems together, right? Team-based, the weather, the food, the nutrition, the navigation, all those things come together. And you talk about the idea that you want to find the test of human endurance, right? You want to create this situation, make it incredibly challenging. Clearly, you have a really high bar for how many teams take part. In the latest edition, how many teams did you have?
Yeah, well, we have a limit of 10 teams at the max. because of safety and logistics, for example, but not at least, I want this race to be for the very best endurance racers in the world. So you need to apply. It's an admission process, which means the first year we picked up 7 teams. Last year we picked out 7 teams as well. This year I think we will have 8. I know for already now for 2025, I think we will have 10. From all over the world as well. But it's tough. Like the first year we had 7 teams, 3 teams reached the finish line. The winning time was 48 hours. Then to last year, we stretched the course a little bit. We don't stretch the course when it comes to distance because we don't know about the weather. The weather is really crucial. So, but we had the plan for last year that the winning time should be about 55 hours because 48 hours, it's not that it was easy, but after 48 hours around there, then it's getting mentally tricky when it comes to navigation, and that's also a very big and interesting part of the race, to see what is happening when it comes to sleep deprivation, how that affects the team and the navigation and the decisions and such. So that's also a really interesting part. So like for last year we aimed for 55 hours. It ended up to be 60. Which was a little bit the limit, I would say, of the conditions that we had last year. It was quite cold in the water, and we had headwind during the whole race as well, which was quite tricky. But so
that's 2.5 days of racing, right? 60 hours is 2.5 days. Inside those 60 hours, the winning team and if you could, obviously you know all this information, who the team was and their winning time in 60 hours. How much did that team sleep inside those 60 hours?
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's wild when you think about it, when you say it out loud. It's like, you kind of live in this world. You're like, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
A regular person is kind of like, what? Like they sleep every 18 hours they're going to bed, right? And all of a sudden it's 60 hours into it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's so important, interesting, because this is also a science project together with the Swedish School of Health and Sports Science. So we had microsensors on. I think we had on 9 team members last year when it comes to blood sugar and temperature and so on, and it was really interesting to see, because we had all the data in real time, and for next year we will probably have real-time data from all racers. But then we could sit and from a medical perspective, they were all fine. Even though it was quite cold in the water, no one was freezing. No one was even close to hypothermia or something like that. It was, but the biggest issue is the sleep deprivation. Absolutely, and that's also the interesting part when it comes to this, because of course it's a huge distance, and especially when you're out there. But the sleep deprivation is so challenging. So you know, like 24 hours in our perspective, everyone
Easy.
can go for 24 hours, 36 hours. But then when you come to the second night,
right,
then the race starts.
Yeah.
And
you can always fight through the first night, because you fight through the first night and then you get the second day. Right.
Yeah.
So hours 24 to 36 aren't that bad, because for the most part, if it's a morning start, you're in the daylight. It's when it gets dark again, it's like your body starts fighting you on that.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's just running and swimming. You have nothing extra.
There's no other changes.
You're not getting anything for free. And when you're in the water, you're
not even on a bicycle coasting downhill. Like if you're not doing something, you're not moving. Like the currents aren't going to help you. And I think it's interesting too. Like I know for myself too, and I've seen with other racers, like you're on a big race, right? You're at a 24:36, you're on a multi-day race, and you're on a cycling section. You cannot wait to get off the bike to start trekking. Like let my body do something different. But in your race, you're either paddling, you're either swimming, right? Or you're running, one or the other. And there's no in between.
Yeah, but that's I must say, that's quite a good feeling anyway. Because when you swim, you want to run. When you run, you want to swim, and then you have you have the transitions. Maybe you have a swim for 300 meters, and then you have a run for 2Ks, and then you have to swim. So it's up and down, running, swim. So it's happen things all the time.
So what's the longest swim that the teams usually have to do? How many K?
6.7K.
Is that near the end? Is that the shipping lane?
Yes, that's in the end. But like last year, I thought that more teams would run more than swim more because of the cold in the water. But in the end, the leading teams, they swam more because they took other route decisions. So I think they made a few, like 3, 4, even 5Ks of swimming during the beginning of the race. And then they have this enormous 6.5, 6.7K swim in the end. And that is about a bit like after 50 hours last year.
Right.
And that takes between 2 and 3 hours.
So you mentioned that there were 7 teams, right? So 7 teams is 21 people on the course and 7 support people.
Yeah.
Right? So you're looking at 28, 30 people. There's an application process to get into the race. What is the background, the profile? What is the history of the typical racer? I'm assuming they have to be incredibly fit. I'm talking like pros, Olympians, like who gets in?
Yeah, it's interesting. We have for the first 2 years we had Jared Shoemaker. He is he didn't make it.
Good man.
Yeah,
Olympian.
Yeah, he didn't make it the first year, and unfortunately he didn't make it the last year either. Team with Alicia, but I would say that adventure racers. That's the typical one water racer.
Gotcha. People who just have a lot of, and so for example, the winning team, right, that came across. First off, what country won this past year?
Australia.
Australia won. Of the composition of the 4 people on the team, 3 on course and the 1 support person, the 3 of them that came into the race from Australia, I'm assuming had a tremendous base of training and recognition and depth and strength.
Yeah, exactly. They have it's in the winning team. They came second the first year. It's Rob Preston. Yeah. He's an adventure racer and he's an orienteer as well. So
one of the best in the world.
So they are a fantastic team, and they have Julian Dent, their support member. He's also an orienteer, and he's been doing it here several times. He's been living in Sweden as well, so they know the terrain quite well. And they are so professional. They are totally fantastic. So I think that adventure races they have the advantage of multiple day racing.
Right. Well, they're used to suffering.
In the end, if you have done an Ironman or World Championship, like that's 8-10 hours. Here we have 50-60 hours, and that's also how should you train for a race like this. In my mind, the race is structured so that it's up to you how you train, and it's only you who can. You can train the distance, you can train running, you can train swimming, you can train navigation and orienteering, learning the nature and so on. And then you can also train when it comes to multiple day racing and sleep deprivation. When it comes to orienteering, running, swimming, that's quite easy. But how do you train sleep deprivation?
Right.
That's a really important part. And the teams that don't have that skill, they maybe do train for like 24, maybe 36 hours sometimes, but you need to do that a lot more because you need to know how you as individual, but also have it as a team. What are you're struggling with after 48 hours?
Right.
And
that's a fascinating part, right? I mean, that's where it gets really interesting. I have Jack Jeffries is a bike racing teammate of mine, and he's a high mountain alpinist, and he's very, very accomplished. And as a mountain climber, he would tell me that, listen, there's two kinds of tough. There's gym tough and there's mountain tough. And there are folks that are in the gym that are really, really good in the gym under a controlled situation. They climb really well. They're really strong. But then when they go out into the environment, they go out into the world, they're a far different person. And the point that you're making is that the metrics on paper may add up to, like, you could swim really well and run really well, all those things together. But though that skill set will only carry you so far when you get into the second night and you get into the cold and you get into the teammates, and this guy's not working hard. She's complaining. He's carrying on. Like our spotter, our assistant is not there in time. Like, there's a lot of those things come together. So I agree with you that you force people who are very fit into a far different skill set.
Yeah, exactly. Because it doesn't really matter how far you run during your training. You need to be prepared for the other part. And like as we saw last year, it was even the support crew that didn't make it because of sleep deprivation. So one team we have to pull out one team because the support crew didn't make it. So it's. And
that's tough. I gotta tell you, the support person falling apart. That's like, holy cow. Like, I feel bad for that team. Like,
but that's also interesting. As I don't know if you know, but last year I've been working with sports, TV, and media all my life. Right. And what I also wanted to do is to bring this kind of challenge and drama out to the public, to a wider audience. Right. So last year, we worked a lot with media, and last year we had the race was produced live for 65 hours. And we will, of course, we will continue doing that, because then you really can follow the drama in real time, and people. We have been so interesting to hear from people all around the world that is not into these endurance racing, but they're looking at the drama.
Of course, exactly.
And that's also when it comes to endurance racing. Endurance racing is a fantastic drama, but no one really knows about it because they aren't there.
Right.
And
and the technology now, so we're shifting a bit from discussing about the race to about and I agree with you. And I remember in 2005. Let's go back time 19 years. I remember watching when NBC, an American network, produced a broadcast of the Ironman. And I remember sitting there watching this. It was Thanksgiving of 2005. They always played it like the Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend. They would have it because the race was in October. So then they played it in November. I couldn't identify with the athletes, not all of them, but I could identify with like what they were telling me about their drama and the striving, and they wanted to be more. And I remember they said, I am an Ironman. I am an Ironman. And it was literally like they were like putting a plug into my brain. And that's where it started. And so to your point, and this is where the technology's changed between the monitoring of body systems, the GPS tracking, the on-course media, the ability to have Starlinks. You could literally take a 65-hour event and you could create this media structure around it and just bring it to the entire world. And people, they love it. You see the same thing with like UTMB this year. They're having some challenges themselves. That's a different story. UTMB this year did an amazing job with their media because they did exactly what you're talking about. And you're sort of seeing that, bringing this to the whole world dynamic. Yeah,
absolutely. And we started last year. We started a partnership with a French company called ASO. They own Tour de France and so on. So they are working with the distribution from our side. And so the media productions that we are doing now are distributed to 190 countries over 5 continents.
Right.
And when it comes to the live part, so this is really what I like, or what my vision with this is, to bring this kind of drama out to the wider audience, because it's so interesting, and it's also people that I know who have been racing, and now finally their friends and family can see what they are going through. So that's so interesting to because trying to explain this is very difficult.
Well, that's a big adventure racing challenge.
Yeah, exactly, and that's when I started. It was like, the biggest, and it still is, to explain to people what the challenge is. What is this? This is like 6 marathons, running and swimming. You need to compare it with, something that they know, because otherwise you tell them about the challenge and then they don't really understand, and they say that, wow, you're going to run a marathon. Oh, that's really tough. Yeah, but this is a little bit more.
Right. It's going to be 6 of them. We're going to be wet in between. It's going to be, it's going to be 13 degrees, right? It's all of that going on there, and then, and that's all going around you. And I agree with you that the very often a large part of the dark zone is I find myself, I'm the chief explainer for the sport, right? And I have to explain to people and I always joke, if you can't say it inside a 30-second elevator pitch, you can't say it at all.
No.
And it's hard to do. And to your point, the ability to work with ASO and to deliver a media package to the world takes all that off the table, because people could actually see it for themselves as opposed to hearing it.
Yeah, exactly. And then also all sports need stars. So we work a lot. So now we're going to the States next in 2 weeks to meet the first US team for this year. So we meet them. We make a media production with them, with each athletes and so on. So we need to all sports need to have the stars, and it's much more interesting if you know who they are and so on. So we're going to Australia, to South America, to all the countries where teams are coming from, and doing the media production with it. And that's also we're having a discussion. We were in South Africa during the World Adventure Racing World Championship.
Yeah, you were there that last day. You were at the International Adventure Racing Association. They had that at the end. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. And we met the Swedish team and so on. We talked a lot about when it comes to media and so on. So what do
you see there? So as you as someone who had a deep base of experience yourself, and now you're involved in One Water, and you have these aspirations, and you want to grow bigger. Because I agree with you, the people, the drama, the course, the media, it creates a really, really interesting dynamic where you can bring it to the larger world. Pulling that back a little bit, having transitioned from being a racer to being a director, being a producer, what have you learned over the course of that experience? That like a skill set, something that was new to you, something that you didn't necessarily weren't expecting, that is now part of your skill set as a result of being the director?
Well, from my side, I've been working with sports, TV, and media, so I know about what is important to build a sport when it comes to a media perspective and a commercial perspective, not at least, so to speak. So in my mind, when I started with this, it was like a little bit, okay, what if I can combine my work with my endurance interest in endurance racing and so on. But I think from my side, it has been I'm really keen into the racers. That's my perspective. Well, I've always been, but that's because I really want the racers to be able to reach the finish line.
Right.
I really want to help them. And that's something that I really...
Well, it's a tough balance for you, right? Because you want to have the course be challenging. You want to have the first team do their best, because you have a really interesting cutoff strategy, right? It's distance between the first team and the next team. How do you determine who gets pulled out of the race?
You can't be more than 8 hours behind the leading team.
Okay.
And that rule, we call it the 8-hour rule, that starts after about 24 hours. So it's also that you as a team, they know, like, for example, for this year, the teams that start, they know that we have a planned winning time of 55 hours. We have an 8-hour rule, which means that you're able to race until 63 hours. Then it stops. So you can actually plan to have a strategy that I will go for the 63 hours. So you can have that strategy, but you can't be more than 8 hours behind the first
racers team. in the back part of the race, do they know their time distance from in terms of strategies? You'll say to them, they'll come into a transition area on the course. You'll communicate and say, listen, here we go. Like the Australian team, let's say they're in first place. The Australian team right now, they have a 3-hour lead on you. So they know right away that they have a 5-hour window.
Yeah, exactly. Because we have, our tracking systems, and all teams have the fourth member in the safety boat. They have an iPad with our tracking system, so they can see all the other teams in real time.
Gotcha. Is there an issue? The fact that they could see the other teams and see their track, is there a prohibition or an issue of the fourth member telling the team the route to take that another team took, or are you just okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, because I think it's better to know where the other teams are, so you can see the competition.
Right. It's a balance.
Instead of having no idea. So I think that's the better. Yeah. It's a better way to do it, because then you can know that, okay, now we're only 1 hour behind, or now we're fine. Now we're 2 hours behind. We need to go for push it. So, but that's also so all the teams that are joining in this year, they are also putting down their race. They need to present their race strategy,
right,
for the race, because we need. I want to have that kind of dialogue already now to see that. In my experience, for example, I can see that, okay, you have a good strategy,
right,
but you have planned a little bit too much sleep, I would say, because if you plan this sleep, I don't think you're able to make it. You need to push it a little bit far. I want to have that kind of dialogue, because I want all the teams to be so prepared they can be. When
and with 7 teams, you can go from team to team to team to team to team and say, well, what's your strategy here? And you can say, well, and if you're giving that access to every single team, no one's getting a better advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And in the end, it's up to the teams. But when they are on the starting line, I want to know that they have a good strategy, a good plan. And I want to tell them already now that I think you need to take a look at those, that calculations. You need to figure that out. You need to work on that. You need to work on that from my experience, because I want them to be fully prepared when they start.
Yeah, to what I said earlier, you want to be challenging but not cruel. Right. You don't want to. And I have to tell you, there are some race directors, and you clearly don't fit in this profile. And I have a natural aversion to this attitude. There are some race directors out there that just appear to want to punish the racers. Like, they make it so hard and so mean and so challenging that it's like a meat grinder. And to your point, you're looking for that balance between a challenging, hard course that pushes the limits of human endurance. You're asking a lot of your racers, but it's meant to be available to them and accessible, and you want to put all those systems in place so that they get to succeed, as opposed to you just don't want to create like pain, misery, and trouble. Like, you're not looking to do that to your racers.
No. And then I've been doing the distance a few times now myself, and when we set the course, I'm out there running. I know all the islands, I know all the terrain, I know exactly where they're going, I know that in this part they should be able to have this pace on this. So because I want to set, because it's me who set the time limits and so on, and then I want to know myself that I know that this is doable. I know that this is
you're not one of those race directors that you're using Google Earth and you're kind of guessing and you're kind of you're actually on the course yourself doing the work and getting the feedback.
Yeah, exactly. And that's also when it comes to for example, like the maps. There weren't any really good maps in the Stockholm Archipelago when it comes to orienteering. So that's why we created our own maps. We have a orienteering map specialists are making the maps. So we know that these are it could be the World Championships in orienteering with these maps. So that's also a really important part to give all the racers the very best conditions to be able to make it.
Well, to your point, it's such an it's so hard as it is between the cold and the travel and everything, the paddling and getting out of the water and the swimming and all of that, you want to create situations in which the things that you can control benefit the racers, the good maps. Right. Don't forget. And that means that's a big, and with 30,000 islands. I mean, holy cow.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were coming to America for the American team. Has that team been revealed yet? Do you know who those racers are?
Yes.
Who is it?
Yes. It's a guy called Justin Smith who has put this team together. He was part in one water race the first year. And he's now back with a really impressive team, I would say.
Okay, so Justin's putting a team together to come over there.
Yeah,
okay. And I said you have 7 teams for this iteration, and you're looking to go to 10 for next year.
8 or 9.
8 or 9. Okay.
8 or 9, and for next year we have already. I would say that we have 10 really competitive teams from 9 countries.
Right. So you feel your energy is kind of growing to this, and next year's a non-Olympic year, so the Olympics this year will take up a lot of media attention. 25 is because there's no Olympics then. Okay.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So what do you see the horizon for One Water being like? You know, you've worked with for years. It's growing in the sport. People are knowing more and more about it. Clearly, you're helping yourself out with the tracking and the media. And I've seen your video production and the drama that you're making on an upward curve. Where do you see the race going in the future? Do you think is 10 going to be the cap? Do you see different versions of it, different parts of the world? What's your gut tell you?
Well, one water race in Stockholm Archipelago. It's so hard to find another place to be. But what I would like to do is to make other people be able to do this kind of race. So maybe looking for like 24-hour races, non-stop races in other parts of the world. That would be interesting, because this is from a race perspective to go out for 24 hours to experience, the sunrise, the sunset, and everything around it. That is something that I want more people to explore or just to experience.
Right.
So that's one part that I'm looking for. I'm not seeing that we will be a new World Series or something like that. I want to keep it quite small, so to speak. But from another part, when it comes to adventure racing, I would like to be more involved in the media part of adventure racing, because I would like to explore or send out that drama to the global community as well. Because that's what I want to do. The part that we are working with One Water Race when it comes to media productions and not at least our live part. It's because we're putting now. A very professional setup together that could be produced. We can produce all over the world. Not that we want to be a production company, but just to be able to send this kind of drama out to a more global or wider audience.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that you make a good point that it's all about systems and formulas, right? And so you've checked off many of the boxes that people will find enthralling and will find interesting. And then you have these various sports that are out there between the adventure racing world, the one water world, marathon, triathlon, endurance sports. And then all these separate sports are building media platforms to share it with the world. And I mentioned UTMB before. They've done a really good job sort of getting people on the course, camera systems, tracking, where you can sit in your house and you could feel like you're part of the race. In adventure racing, it's called dot watching, right? Where you go online and because of the technology that comes together, you could actually physically watch the teams almost in real time. And there's always going to be tracking issues and who gets caught up. But I even remember like this past year, Adventure Racing World Series had a very, very successful race in South Africa. One of the best world championships, if not the best, that was held.
Absolutely.
A large part of that was obviously Stefan put together an incredible course that was A to B, that was really challenging. But the fact that they built all of the technology around it, that you could watch it over the course of several days and be involved in the viewing, the conversation around it, feedback with other racers. And I think that's, as the sports, all of them continue to evolve, that's the direction in which they're going. I'll tell you, one of the most successful episodes we've ever had of the Dark Zone was I embedded myself in in a 5-day race here in America called the Endless Mountains. And I did an interview where I spoke to every racer at one of the checkpoints. They had to talk to me for 5 minutes. That was, everyone had to do that. I then spliced those 35 interviews into one long episode called The Voice of the Racers. And it is the third most popular episode of the Dark Zone ever because people loved hearing from the racers on the course.
Exactly. And I think there's such a potential when it comes to this because it's so good drama when it comes to adventure racing and it's so good drama. And having that as a kind of slow TV is really, really, really fantastic.
I think people respond to that. People enjoy that. The reason why we love football and American football and we love all is that we are pulled into those stories. And I think that One Water has a spot for that. Adventure racing has a spot for that. And I think it's our job to bring it out to the larger world.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like it's like Formula One, Drive to Survive.
Exactly.
That's exactly because that makes people that are not really interested in motors in Formula One, but they're into the world, and that's exactly.
But here's the challenge that exists, right? And you saw this now. They attempted to do the Drive to Survive model in a variety of sports. And they did it this past year with the Tour de France because they didn't have because all the teams didn't participate when they did the Tour de France version of Drive to Survive. They had to create drama. They had to create narrative. And the issue that you run into is that Drive to Survive was so strong and so pure that it actually carried what happened in those racers out into the real world with some accuracy. Unfortunately, when you could overproduce something and then you're creating a narrative that isn't true, that feels manufactured, and then viewers sniff that out in a heartbeat and it falls apart. And so our job is to tell the true story, warts and all, and we can't manufacture it. And that's hard for sports media because the story is what the story is.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And that's really interesting because now the next step, or actually what I've been planned from the very beginning, that's one would raise to be a Netflix drama. So we are having a dialogue with Netflix right now, actually. And I think it would be so good for endurance racing to have this kind of drama, because if you look, sports documentary are really popular, but you don't have this kind of drama. You had like Echo Challenge on Amazon for a few years ago, but that was not really the drama that I want to show. But I think that there's such a potential when it comes to endurance racing drama.
I agree. And the fact that you have such a playground to work with, the fact that it's so unique in with the 30,000 islands, the fact you have elite athletes, right? You have a small, you have 7, 8, 10 teams. Like you're not asking the viewer to do a lot. The Eco Challenge Fiji with Amazon got behind. It dropped during COVID, and it was great to watch at home. The challenge they had there was the fact that they had X amount of teams. I forget exactly how many they had. You could only cover so many of them. As a result, there was so much drama. Like, I know one person who raced, and he said it was a great race, and they did a great job producing it. They get the race directors get all the credit in the world. That was a fantastic race. But he laughed. He says, "Yeah, we're on this documentary. We saw the cameras at the start, and we saw them at the finish, because you couldn't cover 40 teams, but you could cover 10 teams.
Yeah,
you'd have 10 boats." Right. So you could tell a 10-team story pretty easily. You can't tell a 40-team story that easily.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how TV works as well, because the viewer cannot handle 40 teams. You need to. It's like the all the documentaries now and the reality shows and so on. You need to have, like, you can. Maybe during an hour you can have maybe like 5, 6, 7, 8 people that you start to know, and that's the media part. How do we twist this so we can really show the drama but we have all the potential there.
We did that with we did some live coverage in Africa, and last year we did it in Ozark, and even with Endless Mountains, that we would get criticism, and I don't think it was wrong. We would talk about the top 5, 10 teams a lot because they were the leaders of the race. And we had to have dedicated segments just for the middle of the pack racers and the back of the pack racers, because they themselves have a story to tell. You laugh, right? The team that wins a World Series, the team that wins Endless Mountains, those teams are strong and they're fast and they deserve all the credit. But a lot of the drama is found in the average citizen that is slugging it out 3 days into the race, 4 days, 5 days, 8 days into the race. Like, they have a great story to tell. And so you can't always get caught up on the front of the race. And that's part of the decision to make when you cover these kinds of sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's exciting stuff. And what I think is really nice, Thomas, and I appreciate your time on the show. We're getting close to the end of our time. I love the fact that you're striving really, really diligently and valiantly to kind of create a narrative around these fascinating people doing these amazing things in beautiful places, right? All those boxes are checked and off we go.
Yeah, exactly. But there's so many races out there and they get no attention. Mm-hmm. No one knows who they are and so on. And so that's also very important for me to try to bring, because they are the stars, the true stars. And I really want them to have all the attention they can get.
When is the race being held this year?
Starting 20th of August and ending the 22nd.
And what website should listeners go follow?
They should look at onewhatrace.com, and they will we have a pre-show also called the Road to One What Race. It's a 7 episodes starting in March. We follow the racers to the race to tell their story, so we will know them a little bit more, and also to see and follow their preparations into the race. And then we're starting live at 7:00 in the morning, the 20th of August.
And for the listeners out there, I will put all of these links into the show notes. So if you didn't catch it here, go into the show notes and click on those links. Well, Thomas, thanks for being here. Thanks for being on the show. Best of luck with One Water Race.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of The Dark Zone. Thank you to Thomas for coming on to the show and for talking about a race that he loves so much. Be sure to check the show notes and see all the links that are over there. He's going to do a great job with the media on this. It'll be fun to watch, see who wins the race. Good luck to Team USA as they head over there. Great stuff, great for his sport and great for our sport. Delighted that you're here. Once again, please feel free to like and subscribe and click and do all that fun stuff. Dark Zone loves doing what it does for the adventure race community. And remember, folks, if you keep racing, we'll keep talking. Be safe.